What's up?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good.
Cheers.
Cheers. You're back home now. You're
Yes, I
drinking that
got
Michelle Obama.
Mrs.
Cheers.
Obama
I like
today.
that. Cheers. I need one of those mugs.
Okay. So you're the third person today that's requested. I did an interview earlier today on Instagram Live, and I was asked about it, and then somebody else asked me about that particular mug. They're like, I need one. I need one. Um,
You could be a referral link. You could
yeah.
get.
So I bought it when I bought it at the National Portrait Gallery where the painting is on display. But I think you could order it online. I'm going to find out.
Yeah. When I went there, I didn't even know that they were selling it. I remember seeing that.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember seeing the actual painting. It's gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah, so down in the gift shop, they had like all kinds of swag. So,
Okay.
I'm a tea drinker, so I got my mugs of
Okay.
both of the paintings. So,
Okay. I
yeah.
just have my clear one right now because I need to be clear-headed.
Okay.
There's so much craziness happening in the world, right?
There's so much craziness happening, but yes, but it's all necessary. It's all
Yes.
necessary.
Yeah. Like you said, you and I always say, it's here to teach us something.
Oh, yes. And
COVID.
this time, are we going to listen or are we going to have the whole planet implode?
Mm.
Hopefully, we will listen and pay attention this time so that we don't
No,
have to repeat the lesson.
yeah, it's crazy because there's like two pandemics happening, and just like processing it is like stressful. But at the same time, like my heart was swelling yesterday when I saw a photo. I think it was on Katie Couric's Instagram, and just photos of not only people here in America for the Black Lives Movement protests, but people from like all over the world, right?
All
Canada,
over the
Italy, like
world.
France. Just like
It was Australia, Berlin, Spain. I mean, it was literally around the world. It was so like beautiful to see. And you can definitely see that it's bigger, because if you would have said maybe a month ago, Black Lives Matter, they were on their way to being labeled a terrorist organization by Trump and kind of on the back burner. We blacklisted Kaepernick, so we're kind of done with you Black Lives Matter people. Baby, the universe said not so fast. Not so fast, you're a racist. Not so fast. And to watch this whole okay, to watch this like collective groundswell of people who have finally had enough. And because people, I can't say they finally see it or even that they finally get it, but I think that people, because they haven't been distracted in their own rat race because of COVID, they've kind of been just in their house coping with that, like you were saying, the two pandemics. Now it's just like, okay, now you literally watch this because this isn't the first time you've seen black man, an unarmed black man, die at the hands of law enforcement on video. It's not the first time, but you were able to dismiss it so easily before because you could just go on with your life. It's not necessarily affecting you, blah 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 blah. And then this time it was like, oh, hold up. And so at something, it just hit the zeitgeist, and like I said, this whole groundswell and the energy, the whole energetic vibration just shifted.
yeah.
Shifted so much that
Oof.
the president's hiding out in bunkers and putting up barricades around the already barricaded White House, which is the people's house.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're growing pains. They're long overdue. It's never easy. But for me personally, I couldn't be more thrilled with the how the process is playing out, because the fact that it's actually, you can't ignore it anymore. You can't just kind of go into your silo. You either have to pick a side. Like we always say, you're going to align with the light or you're going to align with the dark. And there are
Amen.
people trying to do both, but whichever reaches critical mass first will prevail. And I've always believed in the light.
Me too. And the lightness, the light side of the two pandemics with COVID and the Black Lives Matter movement is, for me, anytime there is a crisis, it forces you to focus. And never I think, in the history of, especially with the technology and the time that we've been alive, we've never seen the whole world shut down. And when the world shuts down and you're not busy going to buy a bunch of stuff or going to work too much or doing all this running around, it forces you to sit and then focus, right? And so now when you sit and you see the officer's neck on, a knee on Floyd's neck, and he's crying. I mean, what really got me was seeing little clips of it and hearing, and reading transcripts and hearing him call out for his mom, because his mom that's no longer here, right? I mean, that touched me deep, because I think that no matter what relationship you have with your mom, like the mom is the symbolism of like safe space, or where a lot of people go, right? When they don't know where else to go. Like mom and God, you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Which are connected because God, mom created you, right? And I mean, the other morning, I just, was it morning or evening? I don't remember, but I literally was just thinking about that, and I just started to like tear up, and I think that there's this big shift that's happened, and that between that happening in the same, what it was like literally same week, right? Or was it the same day? I don't even remember. As Karen, Central Park Karen.
Same. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
they were close. I don't
same
know if they were
time,
the same
yeah.
day or not, but they were same time, close, very close.
So to see that, and to see that privilege, it like cracked a lot of people open in a way that I don't think that I've ever witnessed before. And I think the beautiful thing about this whole thing that's happening, the unfolding, if you will, is that white people have reached out to me, my white friends, who are like, yeah, I knew there was white privilege, but like now I am researching it, and I'm studying, I'm learning about the civil rights movements, and going beyond I'm going to call them stupid history books, because
Yeah, that's what they are. That's just a fact. It's not a judgment. That's a
right,
fact.
right, exactly. The history books beyond that, of what they tell you, and uh, and just doing the research on your own, it's it's enlightening, and a good place to start is realizing that there is a problem, because so many people are like, oh, black people, why are they still angry about it? They're not dealing with it. And I'm like, whoa, 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 back up. It's their ancestors that had to deal with slavery. I'm like, no, but you don't understand systemic racism,
Right.
right?
Right.
And the drawing of the lines of the school districts, and the way things are funded. I mean, there's a clear divide, and please study it, people. Please study it. So that's a good place to start. But just going on social media and posting something like, I stand by you. Well, how are you standing by somebody? Are you using your words in person, right? Are you writing blogs or whatever platform you have? Are you donating if you can donate? Are you researching? That's what, to me, that's like, you got to take action. It's not just like, oh, I'm inspired by the movement, and you got to, walk the talk.
Right. Right. And there are many ways to do that. So, like you just mentioned a few.
Yeah, and
Um,
and one of the things I wanted to focus, you and I wanted to focus. We were chatting about this offline. What we wanted to share with people is a thing that I've been talking with my cousins about, my family members and friends and community about, is when somebody says something racist, sexist, or even, right? But let's focus on race, because that's what we're talking about right now. What do you say? How do you say it? When do you say it? Do you say it? And obviously it's different when you are sitting at home versus being out and about,
or
right?
in the workplace,
Yeah,
or yeah,
and
or
in the
right. Right.
workplace. And you and I have, one of my friends, a white guy, entrepreneur, was just saying like, yeah, I can't even begin to say I understand what you have gone through as an Asian man. And I was like, thank you, and I grew up here. Thank you for recognizing that,
Right.
right? Because some people can put us in a different category. There's this idea of like a Chinese Americans are model minority, and then there's people like, you, who you're well spoken, you dress well, you drive a nice car, whatever, you look on social, you went to college, you have blah blah blah
Check
blah
those
blah.
boxes. Oh,
Yeah,
safe Negro, safer Negro.
right. Yeah.
Right.
But every single day when you walk around with your blackness, and I say that as with pride and with love, and I walk around with my yellowness. I don't know why they say yellow, because I got a good tan right now,
You
actually.
gotta get
It's really
to
nice outside. No,
right.
my yellowness, like, let's break down those different like shades of like when things have happened to us, and when we spoke up. Because I'll be the first one to admit that there's been times when I was taken back and I didn't even know what to say. And like, I will toss and turn and been like, dang, why didn't I say something? I am the kind of person that speaks up for injustice, or when I see things, I want to be a part of that. But now it's a really scary time in America. Fact. not fake news. We're divided by
Right.
the administration, but I feel like it's really eerie, Lonnell, when I look at photos of the protests. And I went to the museum. I don't know if I think it's closed now in DC.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, there's a museum. No, I think it's closed, like shuttered, before the pandemic. There's a museum called the Newseum where they break
It
down.
is. Well, I was gonna say it was open last time I was there, but that's been a few months, so I don't know.
Oh, okay, okay. I don't know, but check it out online then if
Yeah, because they spent a lot of money building that place. I can't imagine it'd be closed already, but anything's possible.
yeah, but it chronicles like news, and they have like different front pages of like from 9/11 and the civil rights movement. And the really scary thing is that when I was there, I was like, wow, that's basically what we're seeing. Martin Luther King back in his days with civil rights movement, that's what's happening again,
The
in
same
different
thing's happening today.
nuances here. And when I've been looking on social media now, the people protesting and all that, it's just like, whoa, like how far have we gone forward and how far have we gone back since that?
Since all of that, and how do you address that? I mean, I've had it happen to me in the workplace. It's a delicate thing for me personally. I think it's a delicate thing, but or in the past, it's been a delicate thing.
Yeah.
Now I'm just like, all bets are off. And when
Right.
I see it, because I mean, I occupy professionally and sometimes socially white spaces that typically where I am maybe one of the only one of two
Mm-hmm.
Black people that might be in this space, and that's kind of been my life ever since probably college.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up a little bit, I was still in some spaces that typically a lot of Black people weren't because of my family. But and it was always delicate, like dancing or like, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. That's so inappropriate, or that's not, or me trying to educate someone, and it got to be so frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm in such a space because people are at least open. I don't want to just attack each and everybody because
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
people are just making statements based on their experience, and
Yeah.
they just are ignorant, and not that they are choosing to be ignorant, but just the way that the society is cultivated, they remain ignorant of certain things. So how do you educate when you really just want to punch somebody in the jaw?
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. So I was chatting with my cousin this weekend, and I've been researching like what to say, how to say, when you say, do you say, and I've been going through some trauma because of things that I've gone through, and it brought up times and emotions of when I did say something or when I didn't say anything. And one of my cousins, she works in a predominantly white office. Her boss is a white lady, and her young white lady. And when my cousin went to South Africa recently to visit a friend, this woman said, okay, make sure you don't eat bat soup.
Okay.
And I was like, what did you say? And she goes, I didn't say anything because she's like really nice to me. And like, she doesn't mean it that way. And so there's so many layers and nuances of subtle racism, blatant racism, but it is all racism. And I understand when it comes from a place of ignorance. I don't want to say I understand, but I try to put myself in their shoes and be like, look, they didn't grow up in an area where there were a lot of Asians, there were a lot of minorities, but that's when you got to check them. But then again, there's times when you don't feel safe. So I told her this, and this story was through a newsletter that I get every week. A dear friend of mine, her name is Gina Pell, and God, Gina's going to kill me because I think she's from Samoa. Anyway, but she grew up in Marin, and she was saying that in this newsletter, it's called The What, and it's like 5 things every week that you should pay attention to. Books you read, like from cute shoes you should buy to shows you should watch or things to enlighten you. And it's called The What List. And one of the whats was she said that she was overseas at dinner once with her young daughter, and this man from the South was a dinner guest of her friends, and he started spewing all this hatred and racism. And her daughter turned to her and was like, Mom, does he not like brown people? Because they're clearly brown people, right?
Mm-hmm.
My friend Gina and her daughter. And she didn't say anything to the person spewing all this madness. And she said that she tossed and turned many nights and thought about it. And so one of the things that she came up with a solution is now she says, and this is very clear, so repeat after me. What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by that? I love it. Right. Right. And that's a great way to check somebody in the moment.
Yeah, right.
You need
What
to
do you mean by
explain
that?
to me because that sounds racist as I don't. As I don't
Exactly.
so
I
before
want
I
to.
jump to conclusions, let me.
Yeah. So I
Let
told my,
me stop.
yeah, I told my cousin, I was like, that is great. She was like, oh my God, I'm going to use that because I think you have to also, like, it comes with social emotional intelligence and figuring out a way to disarm people. Because if you're like, there's a stereotype with angry Black women specifically, right? Where like, oh, she Black, she's angry, right? And I got many Black female friends who are not angry, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you don't, it's such a delicate balance. So I was telling her, it's next time that happens, say, what do you mean by that? Because coming from somebody of color, that seems ignorant and racist. And just kind of like let that marinate for a minute. I was looking at some online resources too, or just like what people have said or have said or experiences that I've had in the past. But I think what's really important before you speak up, whether it's somebody's home or like in public, if there's just somebody that is super racist, and there's a difference between saying something that's racist coming from ignorance or evil and wanting to
Right.
incite violence and
Right.
anger, right? So if somebody is attacking somebody and you don't feel safe enough to go and check them, the accuser or perpetrator, then one of the things that you can say is you go up to the person and stand by them or say, are you okay? And just kind of like walk with them away. And I've seen this happen and unfold in front of my eyes with people that I know when maybe it's a homeless person that's out of their mind, or we're talking here about a racist person, which is also, I think, partially mentally ill. But anyway, so you can walk up to that person that's being attacked and say, are you okay? Or just kind of like, because I think when you stand next to somebody or go towards somebody, there's energetically, there's something that happens that's, that person feels safer that's being attacked, and the attacker feels like there's somebody like a big brother, big sister watching.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. But
Right.
yeah, but in both of those examples that you've cited, I have one thing that was not an option, and that was to do nothing, which I
Yeah.
think, or to retreat, uh, to ignore it. So that, I think those days are probably over for now,
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
But I think I really think this time there's a huge shift, a much larger shift. But
Yeah.
it's just about sustaining it,
Yeah.
because we still have a lot of issues. But if we can get through this, if we can navigate this over the next few years properly, we can begin to, and by that I mean through a united front of a cross section of Americans, we can definitely start to navigate some of the other issues that are still going on. We still have children in cages at the border. We still have a very utterly divisive political environment. There's lots of stuff that we still need to address. But I think that if we get this right, and hopefully we don't have to, and by that I mean that if we progress with it without having to burn the whole thing down, and if we
Start
have to do
over.
that, then so be it. Because if we're not going to get the lesson, but we really have a huge opportunity here. Is what I'm trying to say is that there's really an
Yeah, I
opportunity
love
for
that you
healing
said that.
in this country. There's a huge opportunity for healing right now.
Yes. I wanted to also, we talked about like, in the house when somebody says something like you're having a dinner party. And it reminded me of, I don't know if you heard the story about Maya Angelou, but she told us very often when she was alive about how somebody said something, I don't know if it was like racist. I think it was racist. Or she says anytime somebody says something, words are power. They start wars. So if you're saying something racist or sexist or something against the LGBT community, she's like, no, you need to stop it right away, especially if it's up in your house. So if
Yeah,
you are
she would put you out if you
yeah,
cursed in her house. She would put you
yeah,
out.
yeah. And so she said, no, not in my house. Leave my house now. But sometimes you're like, oh, you don't want to speak up because you don't want to ruin the dinner party, right? Or it's not your house or whatever. But I think it's important to find out like ninja hacks or ways to just confront it the way you best know how, and just having a little bit of arsenal and a little bit of research and a little bit of listening to chats like this, I think helps. So the whole idea of it, it's happening in your house or a friend's house, you can say, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, what do
Check.
you mean by that? Exactly.
Or if it's in public, you can go speak up if you feel safe. If not, go stand by the person. Or if you're on a bus and it's happening, you can go tell the bus driver. But I think what I would love to hear from you is, since you are I believe you're a social media influencer,
Okay.
because you influence me and many people. So what do you like when you see it happen and you see something derogatory? Was there a time you saw something on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter? Like, what do you do? Do you do nothing? Do you do something? What?
The first thing I'm tempted to do, and I get this all the time with trolls and all kinds, when I see crazy stuff, is just to immediately react because my emotion is rage, and I'm just ready to let you have it. And
Okay.
I still have to check myself multiple times per day. And so what I personally do is like, okay, read it again, and you feel like, okay, and I'll read it I'll reread it a couple of times, just trying to like navigate myself through the emotion, take a couple of deep breaths, and say, okay, now come back to this in 5 minutes, and if you still feel the same, then reply.
Oh, good point.
So then I'll come back to it in 5 minutes, and then if I still feel the same, I try to give myself 5 more minutes, unless it's just so egregious. But typically, I try not to react with my emotion first, or I allow my emotion to travel through me and to experience the emotion, but I don't necessarily want to respond. Excuse me. So I try to take a breather, just step back from it. I'll read it a couple of times and just, try to work myself through the emotion, and then how would I respond to this where this other person can actually hear me.
Oh, that's beautifully
Because if
articulated.
I'm just meeting them with that same nasty energy, they're just going to come back with that same nasty energy.
Yeah.
So if I can come back with, if I send back something calm, they'll either retreat because they realize, okay, it's not really affecting him, or he's not taking the bait. And then they can say, you know what, well, maybe I was out of pocket with that, and then we can start having a dialogue from there, perhaps.
Great. That's a great way to clap back.
But let me just tell you, the first thing that comes to my mind, I'm like I'm like Trump when it comes to that. I'm like Twitter fingers. But I really do try to. I'm not perfect with it because there are plenty of instances where I have just like, they're like, yeah, I'm like your mama. But but I try to be conscious of it in every interaction that incites some type of emotion or reaction from me. I definitely try to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to like go high. Like Michelle Obama says, when they go low, you go high. Sometimes you just want to get
Sometimes
low.
you need to be high to go high.
Another thing that you could do, that was beautifully articulated, thank you. But I think another thing that if you, like you just talked about doing something, right? And so if you choose not to engage because you know that they're coming from an evil place and they are trolls, then you could at least report them. You know, Facebook, Twitter, like all these social platforms have a place where you can
do lots of that.
Right?
No,
I've done that in the past too. Yeah. But I think the key here is just to do something. Because if you do nothing, you are part of that problem.
Right. And it is a fight, and it literally is a fight for survival. But I do also understand, and not that I think that it's right, but racists or people who are ignorant, they are looking for a place to express their rage. So not that it's right. I'm like, but you don't take it out on me. I'm not responsible for your rage because you feel inadequate about yourself and you think that my skin color somehow makes you superior or whatever your issues are. But I understand that you have a right to be enraged because you have these beliefs, although I believe they're misguided beliefs. They're your beliefs, but you don't have carte blanche treatment of how or how you express it. But I am mindful that you need to express it. So okay, but that's the point of like, let's try not to react from emotion so that we can get to a place where we can have some dialogue and maybe we can educate one another. Because I need to know, not that I need to know, but I'd be interested like how you come to the realization of of your perception of me, and then mine of you. But if that doesn't work,
Wow.
just kidding.
Wow, you really went high there.
Okay, right. I told you, you gotta be high to go high. I need to go.
I think we need to just end it there. That was great. I was like, that was a great clapback.
But no, really.
This is like a really one of the most important conversations I've ever had in my whole time of doing video chats or interviews, or I don't call this interview, but conversations. It's like it's so important right now to be woke. And if that means you just reading an article, that's why I've been sharing a lot of different articles and different things on social media. But just if you just do some research, read up, get better prepared, understand what the civil rights movement was, understand how people of color have been and are oppressed. That's a step, right?
Right.
And I think
And
that's
we
so
just need to start seeing more consequences for actions. I think if that's balancing out, that will modify behavior. Like Lauren Hill said, consequence is no coincidence. So you've got to, as we start to have more consequences across the board, behavior will become modified. It will, it just will.
I love
But
how
if
you
you can
just
do stuff with impunity, you just keep doing it.
I love how you just quoted Lauren Hill. I
Yeah,
love
I got to go put that record on.
I love that. So your no coincidence is no consequence is no coincidence.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna end it there. That was
Okay.
great.
I hope that's the right lyric. I think that's it.
It sounded good. Please forgive us if it isn't. We're
Okay, right.
up there.
That's the lyric I heard in my head. No, okay.
I love that. Well, I love chatting with you. Thank you for
Always. Thank
your time,
you.
brother.
We'll
Oh, I
talk
love you so
soon.
much. Oh, thank you.
Take care.
Say something, do something, y'all. Thank
Say
you.
something, do something.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.